As provincial accountants based in Pukekohe, we have lots of clients involved in horse industries. Today we're with Dr. Lee Morris, finding out about her business, Equibreed New Zealand.
I'm Lee Morris and I'm the director of Equibreed. I spent most of my childhood in a town called Muswellbrook in the Hunter Valley, which is near Scone, which is the horse capital of New South Wales. So I was very interested in farms and cows and horses, but we lived in town, and the local vet called Gavin Gidley Baird was a nice man, and he used to take me out when I was only a kid in his car, and I'd go and see, the workings of a vet from the age of about 6. So that was really a lot more exciting than living in town. So I thought I'd be a vet. And then I went to Sydney University and studied veterinary science. And then I was a vet in mixed animal practice in rural northern New South Wales in a town called Barraba. Had a great boss there who was very inspirational. And after I was in Barraba for a couple of years, I then went on to Canada and did a PhD or a doctorate in veterinary science in reproduction. So I became a board certified theriogenologist, which means reproduction of beasts. And we studied everything: in vitro embryo production, semen freezing, embryo freezing, intracytoplasmic sperm injection, all of these great technologies. The basis of my training was in Canada. Then I went on to the UK and did a postdoctorate with an expat Kiwi called Twink Allen. He's quite famous around the world, Professor Twink Allen. He was a professor at Cambridge University. And so he had an equine fertility unit in Newmarket that was actually sponsored by the Thoroughbred Breeders Association. But we used all these interesting techniques to understand fertility issues in the horses, even thoroughbreds. Even though you can't use these technologies in thoroughbreds, the use of the technologies helped understand their fertility issues. So they were exciting times. We had a research herd of about 120 horses and a few stallions, and we did a lot of work there. Then I went back to Sydney University and was the registrar in equine reproduction at Sydney University before I met a Kiwi and came over to New Zealand. So then once I was in New Zealand, I had a job with another outfit, and then after a few years working for other veterinary outfits, then we bought the business.
A leading expert in her industry, Lee is highly educated and has a strong vision. Finding out about her history has been a story in itself.
So we're a centre specialising in reproduction of horses, and so starting at the beginning, the first process will be handling the semen or semen collection from stallions, and then preparing that and processing that either for immediate artificial insemination here on site, or else shipping it to other parts of New Zealand or freezing it for use at a later date.
So how does that happen?
So we have some of the stallions are resident here and some of them walk in, and then we have a stallion handler that handles the stallions for us, and we take him out into the phantom yard, which you'll see, and he will actually jump on a phantom instead of on a mare, and then we actually direct his penis into the AV, or the artificial vagina, and collect the semen that way, which is a lot safer than on the back of a mare. Then we bring the semen into the lab and we evaluate the semen for motility and sperm number. So we have the raw semen from the stallion, and the first thing we do is measure the volume. Then we add semen extender to it, which is like a diluent that contains nutrition to keep the semen alive. So we put the raw semen into a cuvette to measure the concentration in the densimeter. And in some cases we want the semen to live for 48 hours if we're shipping it around the country. Then we evaluate the motility of the semen using a computerised semen analyzer. And this allows an objective assessment of the semen and a video record of all its motility characteristics. And other times we want to actually freeze the semen, so then we process the semen a little bit in more detail, and we will add a freezing extender and then freeze the semen in liquid nitrogen at minus 196 degrees Celsius, and we'll use it later as frozen semen. So lots of good quality sperm there. And we analyse that, and the computer picks up the movement of every sperm cell on the screen and then works out what percentage is performing what type of motility, from total motility to progressive motility, circle motility, fast, slow, local and dead. Red is dead. And we examine 5 fields. He's got great semen, 95% motile, which is great. So once we've got the semen, whether we're using fresh, chilled or frozen semen, then we have to plan managing the mares. And the key to the insemination of horses is the timing of the insemination. So technically it's not actually that difficult, but the timing is tricky. Horses can be in season for about 5 to 7 days, and they might ovulate within the last 2 days of being in estrus. So they'll be receptive to the stallion, but they may have ovulated. So if you get the timing wrong, then you won't be able to produce a foal. So we monitor them really carefully and set them up for insemination of the different types of semen, whether it's fresh, chilled or frozen. If we use frozen semen, it only lives for about 6 to 12 hours, so we need to scan the mares quite a lot within 4 to 6 hours of ovulation, so the semen doesn't have to live so long. With fresh semen, the semen might live for 2 to 3 days, so you've got more time up your sleeve and the management isn't so intensive with the fresh semen. The biggest challenge is the confidence to do it, but I've got a great loyal client base and they've been amazing with beautiful horses, so that's really helped overcome most of the challenges that you're faced with. But the next biggest challenge is the seasonality of the business, because the horse breeding season physiologically goes from October until March, and so you have to generate all your income within a 6-month period and then live on that for the rest of the year. So you have to turn that into a positive, and in the off season we do a lot of research and things like that. So it works really well.
Technology is a huge game changer for Equibreed, and detailed processes as well as highly skilled people make all the difference.
So we do quite a lot of research. I usually have a student either at Sydney University or at Waikato University, and I've had 2 students who have completed PhDs in sex-sorted semen from stallions, and they were based at Sydney University, but they would come over here and do part of their projects here, and I was their industry supervisor. Then I've had students at Waikato University, and we've done epididymal sperm studies. So when you geld a colt, you can actually get the semen from the testicles or the epididymis, which is the storage site, and freeze that and use that later, so you don't have to keep your stallion as a stallion. You can actually geld him and still retain his genetics. We also have a stem cell study as well. I was approached by other vets in the industry to sort of perform a due diligence on stem cells to see if they really were working or if it's a little bit of snake oil. Looking at stem cells from different parts of the body, so from fat and bone marrow and blood, and using those stem cells to treat clinical cases of lameness usually. New Zealand is great because it has such changeable weather, so we all like to blame the weather if the mare doesn't cycle properly or if she doesn't ovulate properly or get pregnant. So we're studying that statistically over 3 years, and we'll tell you shortly if the weather really has an effect or not. If it doesn't, we'll have to find some more excuses if there are problems.
Do you get the opportunity to go and travel and do research or look at what people are doing in other countries in the same industry?
Yes, I used to travel a lot. Like every off season I would travel and go overseas, and I've been back to my bases in the UK and been to the United States. But now I've got a little boy, he's a 6-year-old boy, so I don't want to travel as much as I used to.
How are your family involved in the business?
Very intimately involved in the business. My husband is a co-owner of the business as well. It was his idea to buy the business. So. And my little boy Toby, he's 6 and he's just part of our life obviously, but he comes down to the barn and he gets on the walkie-talkies and tells us what to do.
John telling you receiving. Do you need help with anything?
You know, you can probably help me to watch the bike if you'd like.
Okay.
This is not just another business for Lee, but is something that the whole family are involved in, and even the temporary overseas staff become part of that family.
Oh, we've got a great team. Paula, my administrator, she's been with me for years and she runs the show really, and she knows everything, which is great. So Paula's a New Zealander, and then this year, because it's the end of the season, a lot of the team members have actually gone back to their country, because we get people from all over the world. We had a girl from Wales who is very good, and she's gone back to the Northern Hemisphere. We had a guy from Colombia as well, and we've got Jeantel and Shay, who are actually both from South Africa. We have Travis, our stallion handler, he's a Kiwi. Then we have Alex, who is our master's student, and she's actually from Sweden, but I think she's a Kiwi as well. So we're pretty multicultural, which is good. And the world comes to New Zealand really, which is good for us.
I am an equine veterinarian, and I'm also a Masters of Philosophy student at University of Waikato. So I'm working here at Equibreed on this stem cell project, which is very exciting, and it's a really cool area to be involved in. Regenerative medicine is really blooming across the world. So we're very excited that we can do this project in New Zealand. My decision to become a veterinarian is probably based from when I was little, and I used to go out with my grandmother when she was working. She was an AI technician, and I used to see her opening these massive big tanks with liquid nitrogen, and there was smoke, and then she basically made babies from these tanks, and I thought that was pretty cool. And then here I am working at Equibreed in SED, and Dr. Lee Morris, you know, she's got these amazing liquid nitrogen tanks. And well, of course at Equibreed we just don't make babies, we do a lot of other things as well. We have got this amazing stem cell project up and running. We have also, we do stallion collections, we do a lot of semen work, and Dr. Morris is involved in a lot of different research projects. So what I'm preparing today is a treatment for a horse. We've previously harvested bone marrow cells from this horse, and we've grown them in the flask to become this horse's stem cells. This horse has got a chronic problem with its hoofs. It's got big cracks and some ongoing laminitis. So we're going to do a regional perfusion of stem cells into its leg, which is really cool, because then the stem cells are going to get to the point, the site of injury where they are needed. And we're just waking the cells up today to have them ready for treatment in a couple of days. So I have prepared some culture media, which is the liquid that we grow the stem cells in. So our culture media is pink, and you might wonder why that is. It's basically one of the ingredients that we use has got a pH indicator, and that tells us by just looking at it if the cells are growing in the optimal pH. So we want a nice happy pink colour. If it's too yellow, it's too acidic, or if it's too purpley, it's too alkaline. So we know basically just with a glance to see if our cells are growing in a nice, happy, healthy conditions. It contains some nutrients, antibiotics, antifungals, and it's the liquid basically that they live in. So I'm going to filter some media. It's important that everything is kept under sterile conditions, because the cells can't be contaminated when we're using them for treatment. Then we're going to thaw some stem cells from that we have previously frozen down to preserve, and then we're going to spin them and reactivate them and put them in the incubator and wake them up so they're ready for treatment in a couple of days. So when you study to become a vet, science is part of your everyday life, and I think this adds another dimension to my expertise as a veterinarian. Okay, so now we're going to spin the cells. I think it's a really amazing field to be able to do some research as well as working, and I think it's super important that we keep, finding out things and challenging ourselves. So this flask is where we grow the cells in the incubator. Stem cells can attach to the bottom of the plastic, and that's how we grow them. So we are very lucky with this project that we have got external funding, It's a collaboration between Equibreed NZ, the University of Waikato and New Zealand Equine Research Foundation. Okay, so now they are ready to be put in the incubator and they should be growing and reaching an active growth phase by Friday when we will do the treatment. I'm also very lucky to have received a scholarship from Malachi Downs and New Zealand Equine Research Foundation, so to be able to complete this project, we're very grateful for that.
So I came to New Zealand in 2002 and I worked for another breeding company, and then I was headhunted by another vet practice and they invited me to join them, so I worked with them for a few years. And then my husband said to me, "If you're working so hard, why don't you buy the business?" So I said, "That's a scary idea, but a good idea, dear." So I was over here for about 6 years and then bought the business, and we initially leased a farm for 3 years over at Karapiro, and then when the end of the lease came, we thought it was time to move the business to our home farm, and so we've got 80 acres here, and my husband fenced it up for us and opened the barn. My husband let me use his 5-bay implement shed and turn it into a TARDIS full of laboratories and stables and things, and he still has a tractor bay though in the shed, and yeah, the rest is history. Been here for about 3 years now.
And how has the business changed in that time?
Well, it's been great. Like having it at home, there's a little bit of a balance because the tendency is just to work all the time, but at least my husband's on the farm and my little boy's on the farm, so that's great. But the clients love it, and at the other farm we were on the main state highway and I didn't realise I didn't like turning in off the highway, so it's quite nice being on a proper rural road, and the trucks can come in and we've got a tanker loop and they like that, and there's because the farm is managed so well and the grass is managed really well, then the horses always look fabulous, and we also feed a lot of silage and things too, but the horses look good. The facility is really second to none. It's purpose built, and it was my dream to have a facility like this and to do vet work and research and have a family all at the same time. It was pretty special. So my husband calls me Lucky Lucky Lee. Well, the fertility of New Zealand horses probably isn't as good as what New Zealanders think. In the thoroughbred industry, a survey revealed that the first cycle conception rate was only 53% per cycle. Most people think that with natural mating and with a stallion serving a mare when she's getting the entire ejaculate, that they should have close to 100% conception, but that's not the reality. So about sort of 40 to 47% of the time, mares are not conceiving when they're first served. So we need to understand why that happens. In other countries in the world, the first cycle conception rate is closer to 60 to 65%. And with all of our green grass, we think that everything should get pregnant first off. So some of the challenges that we face will be the mare populations in New Zealand are a bit different. So we probably don't cull our mares at an early enough age. After the age of 14, most mares become less fertile. So we have quite an old population of mares in New Zealand. Its neck, right, its head's up here and its body's down here, so I'll unfreeze it. And then the other fertility issues that we have are simply the different types of semen that we're using, so like fresh, chilled or frozen semen. So with frozen semen, it doesn't live as long as fresh semen. It only lives for about 6 hours in the mare's reproductive tract, and fresh semen lives for about 48 hours. So our clients are buying semen, they're paying for it up front, they're paying the Europeans in Europe, and they're buying frozen semen, and the semen quality may be okay, but the sperm numbers might not be enough. You should really inseminate a mare with about 200 to 300 million motile sperm, and sometimes our clients end up purchasing semen and they don't know because they're not the laboratory technician looking at it. So they might only get a dose of semen that's 50 or 60 million sperm instead of the 300 million. So to do that, we have to alter the way we manage the mares. So we manage them very intensively and we inseminate them closer and closer to ovulation. We also use deep uterine insemination techniques. So we take the sperm all the way through the cervix, all the way up the uterus, and at the tip of the uterine horn we deposit the semen as close to the site of fertilisation as we can, just to reduce the losses during transport up the reproductive tract. We also have different methods of processing the semen to optimise its fertility and to pick out the more fertile sperm from the less fertile sperm. Some of those processes are really easy and involve density gradients, and others involve exciting new technologies as well, like nanotechnology, which is another research project that we're doing. So that is exciting. And ultimately, we're heading towards using extremely low doses of semen, even down to 1 sperm per oocyte or per egg, and trying to produce foals using those technologies, which we've all achieved, or we achieved in the UK years ago, about more than 10 years ago now, but often the commercial reality lags behind the research phase, and these technologies are commercially available now.
What are the other things that you do here?
So then the next thing we do is embryo transfer. So we have a lot of competition mares that want to be busy competing and also produce foals, which is quite good. But unfortunately in New Zealand, the breeding season and competition season are right on top of each other. So that's a bit of a challenge for us. So early in the season or later in the season, the competition mares come and we inseminate them, and 7 or 8 days after ovulation we actually flush the embryo out of the mare's uterus and transfer that into a surrogate mare's uterus. There's a lot of attention to detail required for all of those processes to get the good results. Interestingly and excitingly, we will be able to import frozen embryos from Europe in the next year. So we'll soon be able to bring genetics from Europe in a frozen tank, rather than having to import a whole horse. So these embryo technologies will be able to really improve the New Zealand genetics and horse population, which is exciting.
What opportunities do you see that opening up here in New Zealand?
A lot of opportunities, because New Zealand is a beautiful country to raise horses. So we're really a great place to grow young horses. We can do it fairly cost effectively versus Europe. But to improve our genetic base, we do need the European genetics. So if we can bring the European genetics into New Zealand, but grow the foals here and then return the foals to Europe at a later stage or as young horses, then that's really exciting for the whole industry, and we'll end up having more opportunities for our riders to compete in Europe and everything as well.
Horses, science and technology combined with drive, skill and great people. We can see how Equibreed New Zealand has been so successful and continues to grow. We'll see you next time on Thinking Forward.